The papers have linked Arsenal with a new wide man or winger target as the search goes on for attacking additions for both Mikel Arteta and Edu, ultimately designed at making Arsenal having a more competitive and stronger squad as we go into the 2024-25 season. Now, when you think of Colombia, what do you think of people? What springs to mind? Beautiful landscapes, gorgeous women, coffee, Pablo Escobar, and great footballers. Am I right or am I wrong, people? Now, as I said, Arsenal have been linked with another wide man. This time, Arsenal have been linked with Yaser Asprilla. Some of you lot will know that is a famous footballing name, people. So I thought, why not do some research on the player and see, in theory, what he could bring to the very football club that we love, Arsenal, folks. Don't forget to smash the like button. As we know, on occasion or at several occasions, the lower leagues or the championship has had many gems that have been prized away from Premier League clubs and ultimately gone on to be sold for more money or become staples within the Premier League. You look at West Ham's Jared Bowen, you look at Eze, you look at Elise, who was at Crystal Palace before completing the recent move to Bayern Munich. And there's many a player. There's many players that, if done correctly and bought smartly, can triple in price and ultimately, be great footballers for your football club. So good footballers come from anywhere, whether it's the top 5 European divisions, whether it's the lower leagues, whether it's scouting the whole universe and many different continents, ultimately designed at finding players. Now, for what I believe of this 20-year-old people, I like what I see. By no stretch of the imagination do I know this guy religiously. Am I an expert on Colombian football, Yaser in particular, or, Colombia really? But I think he's got a solid foundation to improve upon, and which Mikel Arteta has shown with the Odegaard, Salibas, Sakas, Benjamin Whites, Gabriels. Several players have improving at Arsenal Football Club. So when you've got a 20-year-old who comes into it, assuming he signed for Arsenal, with 6 appearances to his name for Colombia, with over 80 odd in all comps for Watford, and over 40 league appearances or 40 appearances, across the club season for Watford, I think there's a lot to like about the player who was crowned the Watford Young Player of the Year. What I like in particular, people, if I'm honest with you, where this 20-year-old's journey and the rumours to Arsenal so far is, I think he's electrifying. I think he's a strong ball carrier or dribbler. I think he'll get fans off seats, people. I think he's got a good ability to absorb contact from defenders and stay on his feet. Tying into that, I think he's got good balance. I think he's got good close control. I think he's a very good striker of a football, as you would see with his efforts against Rotherham United and also Norwich. I think he's a really cultured and typical South American player, and one that the Colombian football fans and long-term the national team should be excited about. Now, he's got a long way to go before he could be held in the same regards of James Rodriguez and players of that ilk. The James Rodriguez is the Falcaos of this world, the Yerry Minas, people that might not be better technically where Yerry Mina is concerned, but they're held in high regards where Colombia is concerned. Now, as I said, he's a player that they should be excited about. From what I could see, people, I love what I see from him, and I would describe him as a fairly explosive player who has the ability to pick the locks of defenses and strike from long range efforts. People, he's quite explosive, if I'm honest with you, and he's comfortable on either flank. Like Saka, he'll cut it on his favored left foot off the right hand side. On the left hand side, he's fairly unpredictable in a good sense, if I'm honest, and he can play in a bunch of roles. People, I think he could technically play as a 10, and I guess he could play up front, even though I don't think he'll cut out a future there. As I said, I believe the 20-year-old has a solid foundation to build upon. He's got South American flair, and rightly so. Fans that are following him could be excited about him. What also impresses me is his ability to cut in on his left hand side. It's an error to let him cut in on his stronger foot. He's an extremely creative player with a high technical ability, very good short dribbling skills, good 1v1, fast direction shifts in possession, has fairly decent vision to pick passes to his teammates, and ultimately could provide dynamism to teams in the offensive final third. I do think he's someone that sees the game quite well, people. His footballing IQ is quite great. I think he's got great cleverness off the ball. I think he's got good vision and ultimately, once again, a fairly decent passing ability. Now, as we know, in today's day and age, you are required to be multifunctional and play in a bunch of roles. And I think he is fairly versatile. So he's almost, it would be a disrespect to say a blank canvas, but he's almost a blank canvas in which Mikel Arteta can coach people. And he seems on that a very good lad and very coachable and very humble. So he will take on information. If I was Watford, I wouldn't want to get rid of him anytime soon. By no means is he a finished article. Again, if I'm honest with you, there's a lot that he needs to improve. I think, when you consider the Premier League, I think he has to take his game up to greater levels of consistency. Ultimately, I still think he's learning his craft and game. At times, I think he can go missing over 90 minutes when things aren't necessarily going well, but that's natural for a young player. I think he's slightly, ever so slightly, one-footed, people, if I'm honest with you. And I think he has scored some lovely goals, but for a player, from what I've seen with his potential / ability, I think he can give a lot more than ultimately, the goal return he had last season, if I'm honest, where I think he got 6 to 8 goals in all comps. Really, I should have done my research in that regards. Either way, he can do a lot better in terms of output. As we know, statistics and stats, I think, have become a bit too extreme in football. But for an attacking player, it is vital to be able to get goals and assists. I think his defensive actions could improve a tenfold, if I'm very honest with you. As we know, Mikel Arteta is very big on coaching defensive aspects of the game and essentially for our attackers defending from the front. And where you look at some statistics, he's got defensive action standing at 39%. So that's evidently an area to improve. But again, you don't expect him to be the finished article. The man is 20 years of age and is firmly at the early stages of his career. So obviously, Mikel Arteta can promote good habits and coach or uncoach bad habits within him, people. And you have to give him credit for durability. He played 44 times for Watford in the Championship last season with 7 assists and 6 goals. So I did do my research. Apologies. So there is something. He's durable. He's versatile. He's got a high technical level. Obviously, with him being 20 years of age, there's the ability to improve him and improve him a tenfold. If I'm completely honest with you, there's a lot to like about this individual, and I'm going to keep saying it. Ultimately, in conclusion, I can see via what's available why his talent saw him win Watford's Young Player of the Season. You can see why he's got 6 Colombian appearances to his name. And with the greatest of respect to Watford, they're probably going to sell him for a lot of money when that time comes. Now, there's rumours he's got an asking price of 15 million, which again is, at the end of the day, any investment costs a lot of money, whether they're signed for £1 or 15 million. But in the grand scheme of things, in football today, people, what is 15 million? It's not really that much. It doesn't really stretch that far. So if you were to sign him for 50 million pounds, there's a lot of upside in that. It's relatively low risk / no risk at all. If he wasn't to improve, you could probably make that money back. But if he did, his price tag ultimately, or his worth, could treble, and ultimately provide another versatile option for Arsenal in a number of positions, primarily out wide. Then he fits in with our remit of obtaining stars for tomorrow. I do believe, given the right foundation, with time, he could become a real top player, in my opinion. And he's ultimately got an impressive return for someone so young. And he's shown his versatility once again, playing in a range of positions for his club this season, even technically more central at points. Now, when you look at the interest in him, he is coming off the back of a blisteringly good season where he's starting to get international recognition. Some rumors say he's contracted until 26, some say until 2027, as well as Arsenal apparently drawing interest from a host of clubs in Europe, as well as Everton and a bunch of other clubs that have been named. Now, as we know, being linked with clubs, apologies, and actually making the signing or making bids to Watford are a completely different thing. As I was alluding to, some articles say he's contracted until 2026, some say until 2027. Now, I'm just a football fan, but if you do the maths, and he's been named their Young Player of the Year, he's 20 years of age, he's drawing interest from potentially other clubs. Obviously, there's going to be interest, but could a lot of this interest from Arsenal or other clubs be overstated by his agent in an attempt to get his client a better contract? Is there a club with legitimate interest, potentially a few steps away from confirming his signature, and Arsenal's name, as well as other clubs, are being thrown in the ring to kind of drive up the price? As we know, a lot of football clubs' agents use the media to kind of play those kind of mind games. Who knows, in truth, people? What I do know is what I've seen. I think we could do a lot worse than signing him, which I don't necessarily believe, but if he genuinely is available for only 15 million, there is a lot of upside, and there's a lot, once again, that Mikel Arteta can utilize from this individual in the short, medium, and long term, ultimately for our football club, and in his own individual way, make us have stronger collective attacking options in the pursuit of having more depth and making us better equipped to challenge Manchester City for the Premier League title, which, you know, the first two title challenges have been all right, but we haven't won. Ultimately, we hope we're able to get silverware. So yeah, man, in relation to Mr. Asprilla, he's a good player. I like what he brings to the table. But with that being said, I've got nothing more personally to share. I would love to know your thoughts. Don't forget to turn on your notification bell, smash the like button, and comment your thoughts on the player. And also comment if there's any players you want me to do videos on. On that note, once again, one love for tuning in. Stay safe, stay blessed. Peace.
I think it's like